Hello and welcome to the Punter, the show that keeps you up to date with all the sports betting action across the sporting calendar. And as we close 2012, there is plenty of football upcoming for punters. I'm pleased to say that the bet butler Nigel Seeley is with me to talk about the final games in the Premier League of the calendar year. Nigel, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I've been a bit ill, I had a bit of flu bug. So they say
too much indulging over Christmas, basically.
No, totally the opposite. Indulging over November, October, September has caused me the flu bug. But other than that, no, I'm fine, mate. I'm looking forward to some of these games. Some very interesting bets, I think, this weekend, and some very interesting prices around for teams that are going through a bit of blip but expected to win. So lots of punting strategies I'm having.
What did you make of the Boxing Day games? Because Manchester United won, Manchester City lost, and suddenly United are getting ever shorter to win the Premier League.
Yeah, and also obviously Chelsea winning. I think the fact that Chelsea went to Norwich and won the result there, rested some key players. I think everyone said it's a two-runner race. I think it's now a three-runner race. I really genuinely do, because I think Chelsea will buy big in January and make it a three-runner race. Whether we'll see the quality of the Falcaos this world, I'm not quite sure, but you'll definitely see some new signings. And I don't think it is. Can't see Man United buying any players. The thing is, for Man United at 4-7 to win the Premier League title, I've got to be a layer. And the reason I've got to be a layer is I don't think you can concede that many goals and keep having that much luck to keep going and going and going and going. So I still think there's a blip here, and I think when it comes to the business end of the Champions League, Manchester United, the fact that Man City aren't in there, and Chelsea aren't in there as well, will help them in the long run.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about Manchester United and their defensive record, because it's been terrible, hasn't it? 28 goals conceded. They only conceded 33 in the top flight last campaign. We're going to kick off our previews with the game at Old Trafford. Manchester United take on West Brom. We thought that West Brom were going to suffer a blip. They did suffer a blip. We thought it might be a little bit long-term or more long-term. It turns out that it hasn't, because they've bounced back. They've won their last two. Can they cause a shock at Old Trafford?
Well, they've done very well to win the last two. They went to QPR. I really fancied QPR the weekend. I actually backed QPR quite heavily, and they were awful. I mean, they were awful until they went behind and they started playing well. Can they cause a shock at Manchester United? The simple answer to that question is no, they can't. I mean, they're so good at home. They're very defensively solid. I just think if they go with a bit of ambition, they may be able to score a goal and put some pressure on them. But I just don't think Steve Clarke's sides away from home do have that ambition. I mean, they got a goal from Chris Brunt's left foot totally against the run of the play, where he's hit one from 25 yards, he's got in the corner, Rob Green, and then they've got the debatable second goal, which really did. But other than that, they didn't really offer much. And I just think that Man United will cruise through here, and I think they'll stop the rot of the goals conceded, and I think they'll win the game to 0.
Let's take a look at the match prices as it stands at the moment going into this fixture. United are the short price favourites, as you would expect. They are 3s on, draw 5-1, West Brom 10-1. Now, before we came in here, you were telling me that you priced United up at 5s on. So at 3s on, are they a bet or just one for the actors?
I think they are a bet. I think, I always price up every single game I do, so then when the prices come up, whether I'm right or wrong, depends on where I want to go. So you've always got to have a little opinion yourself of what the price should be before you see the price from the bookies. I think 3-1 on Manchester United is very generous. I think that, and I think people just look at West Brom and think, well, they're lying in 7th place in the Premier, or 6th place in the Premier League table. They're going to give Man United a game. I just don't think they will. I mean, they scored 12 goals in the travels, which isn't that bad. But Manchester United at home just don't lose, and they're not going to lose to a side like West Brom. If they are going to lose, it'll be Chelsea, Man United, Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal, one of those, or Tottenham, as they have done already this season. The likes of West Brom do not go to Manchester United and win. I know Blackburn did at this time last season. I just can't see it. Man United 3-1 on will win.
1 or 2 injury doubts as well regarding the back line of West Brom, with Popov a doubt and also Olsen a doubt. Let's take a look at the first goal scorer market in this one. Obviously, when it comes to Manchester United, we usually look towards Van Persie and Rooney. Well, Rooney's out with a knee injury at the moment, so we can't pick him. Do we lump on Van Persie? Hernandez has been scoring recently.
I think
but we've seen for first goal scorer, I mean, United do share it around a little bit.
Yeah, I think the team sheets are obviously crucial for this match. Now, have a look at the game. Welbeck didn't play. I think he may feature in the match here. I mean, I couldn't possibly put up any bet until 10 minutes before kick when you see the lineup. I mean, Van Persie's one yellow card away from a suspension. They've got some big games coming up. Will he play in this game? Will they go Hernandez, Welbeck? We saw the likes of Scholes, Giggs, and Johnny Evans popped up and scored at the weekend. Like you said, there's goals all over the pitch. I wouldn't be backing any of them 3 players there. I mean, 3-1 and 4-1 and 5-1, you're getting 20-45. They're saying it's 10-11. That one of those 3 scores a goal. I'd rather take everybody else in the Man United side 11-10 against. But for the likes of West Brom, Lukaku 12-1, Long didn't play at the weekend. Willie didn't play at the weekend. Both teams wait and see what lineup they are. West Brom will probably play one up front, pat the midfield, make it difficult for them. But Van Persie's the man. He will score at some stage. Whether he scores the first, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting you make that point about the yellow card, though, because obviously the suspension cut-off point is the calendar year, I think, or it may well have been around this time. So if he picks up another, he could well miss that game, and therefore he may well be rested for this one. We've seen it before. Let's take a look at the half-time, full-time market in this particular game. And those that don't like to get involved, threes on, look for United home, don't they? Didn't work out against Newcastle, but there'll be plenty of takers a shade odds.
Yeah,
on.
Certainly 17 to 20 will probably look a bit of value, but obviously Man United have come from behind in 8 games this season and won the match. So obviously, if you fancy West Brom to go in the lead and come back and win, West Brom to be leading at half time and Manchester United full time is a 28 to 1 shot. But I like draw Man United. I think that's it. Bless me, sorry about that.
Excuse you.
I know, I've got a bit of the flu, but I apologise for that, mate. But draw Manchester United 18 to 5, but Man United 17 to 20. But for me, West Brom, Man United 28 to 1 could perhaps be where the value lies.
Yeah. No hiccup or indeed sneeze from Manchester United against West Brom at Old Trafford. Let's move on to the game up in the North East. Sunderland take on Spurs. We can take a look at the match prices first of all for this game, because Sunderland something of a resurgence under Martin O'Neill. They've got a good record against Manchester City. They proved that again by beating them fair and square by all accounts last time out. They are 11 to 4 to get the better of an informed Tottenham side. 23 to 10. Spurs draw 5 to 2. Spurs were pretty impressive against an awful Villa side, but Martin O'Neill tends to raise his troops' games in the bigger games, doesn't he? We saw against City.
Yeah, I think these are the
anyway.
kind of games you have to look at Tottenham and turn around and say, are they a real threat for the top 4? Are they a side that going for the Championship, or are they going to languish in the sort of the 6th or just outside the top 4 position? They've got to win games like this, and recently they have been grinding out results away from home. If you look at their record away from home, they've scored in all 11 games they played away on their travels, so that's a fantastic record they have there. Sunderland, even at home, they're very defensive-minded under Martin O'Neill. They go and try to hit you on the break, and I think that will fall totally into Tottenham's hands in this game. I just don't think you can do that against Tottenham. I think if you play defensive, Tottenham will hit you on the break. You've got to take the game to them and try to rough them up a bit. I don't think Sunderland will do that, and for that reason, I think Tottenham at around about 11 to 10 are a decent bet for this match. I've said for a long time their starting 11 is as good as anything in the Premier League. I really believe. I think from 1 to 11, it's as good as Manchester United. It's not far off Man City, and I think it's better than Arsenal. But whether they can put a string of results together or any key injuries to any players, I think they're in trouble. But I think Tottenham are going to be a team to follow at the early part of next year, and I think they will finally end their drought of not finishing the top 4. I think they'll do it this season. And like it's 11 to 10. I think you've got to get on Tottenham here.
Let's take a look at the first goal scorer market here. The usual suspects towards the top of the list. And, of course, Gareth Bale has been in fantastic form since coming back from that hamstring problem. He's a 7 to 1 shot to get the first goal. Defoe 11 to 2. Adibar 13 to 2. If you look at first goal scorer from a Sunderland point of view, well, Fletcher 7s. Connor Wickham can't see him starting 10 to 1. Stefan Sessegnon at 10 to 1. We've got to look at Spurs players here, surely.
Well, I mean, you say that. I mean, I look at Sunderland's side there. The form that Fletcher's in, he's
the only one,
well,
though,
yeah,
isn't
but he should be like around about a 9 to 2 shot, and the other should be a 10 to 1 shot. The difference between Fletcher at 7 to 1 and Wickham at 10 to 1 isn't a 7 to 1, 10 to 1 shot. It should be a 5 to 1 shot and a 14 to 1 shot. He scores every goal. So at Fletcher, on the first, I still fancy Tottenham to win, but Fletcher looks a value at 7 to 1, especially if you get a quarter the odds for him to score at any time in the game. That will be where I'll be heading. I guess
though, Butler, that a lot of these first goal scorer odds are framed around the match price, and therefore, if Sunderland are the price that they are, then the first goal scorer price has got to be inflated.
If you look at Swansea, it meets you. What would Swansea be if Swansea went to say they played? We'll come to Swansea Fulham in a minute. But when say it's Michu will probably be around about a 5 to 1 shot to score that goal, but the second favourite will probably be a 14 to 1 shot. The 7 to 1 shot is probably value, but what I'm saying is the difference between him scoring and Sessegnon scoring is not 7 and 10, it should be 5 and 14. I just think that's a little bit too big and disrespectful for a guy who's scoring a higher proportion of Sunderland goals. And the value would be to score any time. So if you work out the betting to score any time, it's usually a quarter of the odds of your first goal scorer. So if you can get 7 to 4 Fletcher to score any time and 2 to 1 Sessegnon to score any time, you'll be backing Fletcher any time or every single day of the week.
Yeah, it's interesting. Basically, you're saying the relationship between first goal scorer as far as Fletcher is concerned and Sunderland wins the game is different to what it might be to another team that share the goals around that still might be in the bottom half, I'd say. Let's move on to the half-time, full-time betting for this game. Obviously, lots of punters are going to look at Spurs. There's always different ways you can play this, and we tend to look at that draw favourite, don't we, really? At the moment, if you do fancy the draw and Spurs to win eventually at 9 to 2. That's what happened against Aston Villa, although how Spurs did not score against Villa in that first. I've got no idea. But that's going to be popular because that looks a fair price to me.
It happens against Aston Villa. It also happened against Swansea. And they grind. It was a typical Tottenham. You know, this is the sort of game Tottenham would come a cropper in last season. That's the game that showed me that Tottenham should be taken seriously. They were 0-0, got to about the 70th minute. That was the kind of game Tottenham would have lost. They won it. And this will be very similar. Sunderland will be very defensive-minded. Martin O'Neill only knows one way to play. I think it'll be a draw at half-time. Tottenham will nick it 9-2. And draw, which was 0-0 last season at 9-2, probably a decent bet. I couldn't be backing Tottenham at 13-5 because I just think that Sunderland will be hard to break down. I mean, they're in form, the confidence is high, there'll be a packed house, intimidating atmosphere, but eventually that quality of that Tottenham side will break through.
Confidence high at Spurs, another London club, confidence draining away recently. Fulham, they take on Swansea, but they're talking about Mucci before. We'll get to that first goal scorer market in just a second. But first and foremost, let's take a look at the match prices here, because Fulham, traditionally strong at home, you would have thought that the layers take that into consideration. Maybe too much consideration here, because they're going through a bad patch. Are they a little short at 5-4, draw 12-5? Swansea, who won at Fulham comfortably last season, 13-5 shots.
They won 3-0 last season. Very, very comfortable indeed. I think Fulham are a side in big problems at the moment. I think this highlighting how fragile their squad is. He will get some key players, I'm convinced, in the transfer window. But at the moment, they're missing the spine of their side. They're missing in midfield. They're missing Diarra. They're missing huge. Brian Ruiz, very underrated player, pulls all the strings. And at the back, we're missing Aaron Hughes at the weekend. So there's three key players in key positions, and they haven't got the squad. They've got rid of Dembele. They got rid of Dempsey, they've got really key players to them. So at the moment, they're a team in turmoil, I think. I think they're a team to oppose. Swansea, on the other hand, free-flowing, good football. It'll be a great footballing match. And I would be... these are the kind of games that I've always been saying get on Fulham. But on this occasion, I've just got a feeling that Swansea might get some of the game. I think the draw might make appeal, and a high-scoring draw at that, maybe a 2-2 at a decent price. But Fulham, 5-4, I wouldn't be rushing to back them. They've got backed into odds-on against Southampton on the weekend. Southampton were much the better side in the last sort of half hour, 40 minutes or so, and they only got a draw. So I wouldn't be rushing at all to back Fulham for this game.
Let's take a look at the first place to score market. There is a slight doubt about Michu. He has got a small ankle problem, and Michael Harris has been suggesting that he's been playing him when he's not been 100% fit at the moment. He's a 13-2 shot here to get the first goal. Danny Graham at 8-1 would probably come in if Michu doesn't start. Nathan Dyer is a 14-1 shot, and for Fulham, Berbatov, Petric and Rodallega 6, and 7 respectively. How are we looking at the first goal scorer market here? Because Michu scored 13 of the 27 goals that Swansea have scored in the league this season, and if he doesn't play, is there a problem? First and foremost, if he does play, is that value 13?
If he doesn't play, the 5-4 Fulham to win the game is value, because that's how influential he is. I mean, if you took Michu's goals out of Swansea's side, they're 9th at the moment, being 16th place in the Premier League. So that's how influential he is. He's probably the most influential player to any side, even more so than I would say Luis Suarez is to Liverpool. I think he is the key man. If he doesn't play, but Fulham will go off for this game probably even money. That's how much of an influence he is. So if he doesn't play, back Fulham to win the match. Berbatov is the man, obviously he's the key player, takes penalties, free kicks, he's loving life down there at Fulham. Him at 6-1. But if Michu plays, team news is vital for this game. If there is no Michu, then Fulham, you've got to back Fulham. They'll go from 5-4 to even money. Snap up the 5-4 quick.
Let's take a quick look at the half-time, full-time result in this game as well. With Fulham favourites, then you can see that the Fulham double result, as it's also called, is 11-4. And then you look at Swansea 6-1, and obviously the draw is relatively short as well, 19-4. Draw Fulham 19-4 as well. I mean, if we're predicting goals, are we predicting one team or another to be ahead at half-time?
Well, I fancy a draw, Dan.
Draw.
I think draw. I think it'll be a very entertaining game. I mean, Fulham. The football down there is great. Swansea have drawn their last two, 0-0 against Reading and 1-1 against Manchester United. Two totally different games of football. But I can see draw, 19-4. I think things Fulham they concede a lot of goals. They always give you a chance, and same with Swansea as well. So I think it'll be an entertaining game. Maybe draw, but I wouldn't. However I played a half-time, full-time, the draw at the end of it would be my result. Whether it's a Swansea draw, Fulham draw, but I think this could be a draw. And I think 2-2. As a match result at around about 14s will be the best bet.
It's about Butler's view on some of the games in the Premier League towards the back end of this calendar year. We've got many more previews to come. We'll be taking a look at the matches featuring the likes of Arsenal and Manchester United still to come. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Punter as we take a look at the best betting opportunities over the course of the Premier League fixtures this weekend. It is, of course, the final matches of the calendar year. Plenty to get stuck into, plenty of winners to be found. Hopefully we'll be pointing in the right direction. We can take a look at the match featuring Arsenal and Newcastle next. Nigel Seeley, the Bet Butler, is with me in the studio. Arsenal, of course, didn't play on Boxing Day. One suspects that's a help rather than a hindrance for Arsene Wenger's side, because they take on a Newcastle side that were involved in that 7-goal thriller on heavy ground at Old Trafford in midweek.
I think that's absolutely key. I mean, one team's absolutely rested. One team's not only involved in a game where they've been in the lead 3 times at Old Trafford, you know, and they're going into the 90-odd minute and they've got a point, and then they get let a goal in. How much is that taken out on them? It's going to take out an absolutely huge amount of it, and obviously got some key injuries coming out of it. They've got Demba Ba, who probably may not play in the game because he's link of him with the club going to the club he's playing today. I just think that, you know, even at 1-2, a price like Arsenal, I just think they've got to be some fantastic value. I think the fact they've been rested is absolutely huge. But some interesting stats on the game. Arsenal haven't won a back-to-back game in the Premier League since April. Incredible. Incredible. Shows you how out of form they are. You know, they haven't won 2 successive games in the Premier League for that long time. So well, that will go hold you. But I think the run comes to an end. I think Arsenal win it.
Let's take a look at the match prices, shall we, Nigel? Suggesting that Arsenal are short, and they are indeed. Here we can see the prices up on screen. The Gunners 4-9, draw 7-2, Newcastle 7-1. You might get a bit of twos on the exchanges if you're lucky, but when the team news comes out, you might be unlucky because that price may well have gone. You mentioned Demba Ba, he might not play. Mike Williamson, who's been a mainstay at the back, is suspended as well for Newcastle. The win percentage drops significantly when he doesn't play. I mean, I'm not quite so sure that Arsenal are title contenders, but I firmly believe they're going to finish in the top 4. And Newcastle, when they do play well, they only seem to play well in, I don't know, 20 minutes of a game. They never seem to put it together for 90 at the moment. No,
exactly. I mean, I think Newcastle will be probably small punters at 7-1 might be sort of taking a few quid on that, but the serious gamblers are all just going to be taking Arsenal at 4-9. I mean, obviously that stat I told you was the home Arsenal at home haven't lost one consecutive. They won 2 on the road recently, but. I just think Arsenal win the game. I mean, they really, really do. One thing about the match as well, if you look at these specials, it's always a bit needle in this game. There's always a few yellow cards and a few red cards, and Arsenal in the last 3...
The Pardew-Wenger thing usually does that,
and the last 4 years between the two sides, Arsenal have had 3 players sent off in the last 4 meetings. So if you're looking for the bookings, I think this could be a fiery game. And you know, Newcastle, looking after some of the derogatory comments that Sir Alex has said about the Newcastle team and the area, I think the players will probably come out and put a bit of form on here. And I think it could be a lot of needle in this game. I think the bookings could be very, very tasty match.
Let's take a look at the first goal scorer market next, though. We've got prices for you here. And once again, it's the Arsenal strikers that are towards the top of the market, with Olivier Giroud and Theo Walcott 5-1 on the pair. Now, they probably both won't start. They could do, but at the moment, Arsene Wenger is quite happy to stick with Walcott up front. Don't think he did too much against Wigan last time out. Podolski 11-2, you can see they'll play on the left, I'm sure. I mean, is he a player sort of long-term we can start to trust down the middle, Theo Walcott, or not? I mean, do you see him as a striker eventually? And if so, from a punting point of view, can we take advantage now? Well, maybe Grabbles that might not be available in a few months' time.
I can see him being a big goal-scoring threat for Chelsea when he goes there. But for Arsenal, I mean, you know, this is probably could possibly be his last game. You know, he might want to go out of a bang. You know, if he's got a penalty or a free kick, he might take it. I can't see him being at Arsenal. So, you know, the talk of having him at a 5-1 shot for Arsenal, it depends where the new manager and the new club want to play him. So, Cazzola's the beat for me. I mean, he scored a hat-trick in his last against Reading. He didn't really play much against Wigan. They took him off, you know, rested him a little bit. He's fresh. He'll be the person I'll be taking, having a few quid on rather than... But Walcott, you know, it could potentially be his last game at the Emirates. So if there is a chance of a free kick or a penalty, he might be keen to take it. He might be keen to put on a show to show him what you're missing if he does go. But there's nothing on M3 prices that really jump out and get me. Cazzola at a decent price could be the bet.
Let's look at half-time, full-time for you here. Arsenal have started strongly in 1 or 2 games. They've started slowly in 1 or 2 games. You always get the feeling with Arsenal that if they can kick on early, then they can put, you know, 3, 4, 5, as we've seen past teams. Arsenal 11-10. Does that make appeal, or would you prefer draw Arsenal?
It doesn't really make appeal, but that would be the way I'd be heading. I mean, I just can't. I think Newcastle, if they play with the same gun-ho as they did against Manchester United, would not... probably the players, not the same personnel starting. I think Arsenal will tear them to pieces. I think it could be a real bad day for Newcastle. I think they've come so close to beating Manchester United. I think they'll go there trying to be buzzy, trying to put on a show. And I think the over-exuberance may be their downfall. And I think Arsenal will get through. 11 to 10, not really a great betting proposition for me, but I can only see one thing, Arsenal.
Arsenal, it would be the way to go if you fancy that half-time, full-time double result. Let's head off to Carrow Road, shall we? And Norwich take on the champions, Manchester City. We can take a look at the match prices for you first up. Norwich, of course, have beaten Manchester United, beaten Arsenal at home, but they were beaten by Chelsea last time out. And City, a short price, for me, too short here. They were beaten by Sunderland last time out. They've been unconvincing more often than not this season, even though they are in second place. I won't want to back them at odds on.
Well, they've only won 3 of their last 9. They haven't scored away from home in sort of 3 games of the last 4. But if they could pick one team they want to go play, it's Norwich.
Because?
Because they have a fantastic record against them. They won 6-1 last season. They won 3-2 the season before. I think that if you look at the way the two teams match up, Norwich are a very, very small, physically side in midfield. They're good little football players who like to be on the ball. But the muscle of Yaya Toure, you know, could steamroll this side. I really convincingly believe that. I think Man City, there's something not right. The goals aren't going in. That's the big problem. It's surprising when you think Aguero, Dzeko, you've got Balotelli, who's not even going to feature. All those players, you know, and Tevez, they're not good enough scoring goals. But if they could pick one team they want to go and play, this would be the side they want to do. And I think there could be a backlash here. Again, I agree with your point. 6 to 10. Would I be backing them?
No.
Would I? Certainly not. Would I be backing them at 4 to 7? No. But if you ask me now what's going to happen in the game, I think Man City will win it 2-3-0. But would I back them? No, I couldn't.
Well, this is the most likely result, and whether you want to take the price or not are two completely different things. Let's take a look at the first goal scorer market. I mean, you mentioned Tevez and Aguero, Balotelli. I mean, there are options to see. I think it was the first time that they didn't win a game when Tevez and Aguero started together up at Newcastle, wasn't it? He may well shake it up a little bit for this game, mightn't he? Although it was Tevez who scored a hat-trick, I think, in this game last year.
Yeah, I mean, I hope... the thing is, the goal scoring threat isn't there. They're going to be very, very short prices to score the first goal, these guys, but they're not scoring goals. So you've got to look elsewhere. You've got to look, for me, maybe if Company's back, take a big price in from a set piece, because you know that Norwich, that's where their downfall's going to be. I mean, they're not great at set pieces. I think they've conceded more goals at set pieces than any other team in the Premier League. Holt's there, big out at 9 to 1. Aguero, Tevez, Toure. Yaya Toure at 17 to 2. I could actually see that because I can just see him totally running this Snodgrass, you know, Houlihan. They're all sort of 5'7", 5'8" playmakers, good guys on the ball, good football players, but they're not engines. And I can just see him running right. And I think maybe Yaya Toure at 17 to 2 and swerve the Aguero, swerve the Tevez, swerve Balotelli, swerve super sub to Dzeko, but go for Yaya Toure.
Watch out for Yaya Toure. 17 to 2 shots to get the first goal in that game. What about half time and full time in this one, Butler? Again, people are going to look at City, you know, away in this 11 to 8. I mean, I think it'd probably be a draw. It wouldn't surprise me if it was draw at 6 to 1. How do you see the half-time?
Well, I'll tell you something. The four games that Man City have won away from home this season, they've all been drawn at half-time. So and they've drawn 4, so they've only lost 1 out of their 9 games. There's been 4 wins, 4 draws, and 1 defeat. But all the wins they have, every game has been drawn at half-time. So I think draw half-time, Man City full-time at 15 to 4 if you're playing the stats. Man City 11 to 8. Maybe a lot of people will back that. But I think the draw half-time, Man City full-time, 15 to 4. I think Man City will have too much quality for them. I really do. And I'm a big believer. I've sat on this show and I've had chats with Darren Lewis and Flashman and about Norwich. I think at a big price.
You think he's going to go down?
I think at a big price they could get dragged into this. Yes. I think Houghton's a great manager, great job. But when things are going well, he sits there and does a very quiet man. But when things are going bad, is he looking in the corner? Is he the kind of guy who's going to get you grind a result out at Stoke if you need a point on a wet Wednesday? I'm not so sure. Interesting.
Norwich are a pretty big price to go down at the moment because we'd like to think the bottom 4 at the moment are cornering the market when it comes to those relegation prices. As regards this game, though, perhaps draw Man City is the best bet on the card. That's it from the Butler and myself for now, but we've got many more Premier League previews to come as we take a look forward to the final games of 2012. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Punter as we look forward to all the Premier League action at the back end of 2012. Hopefully we'll point you on to a winner or two. Plenty to look forward to still in the show. 3 games in this section. Nigel Sealer, the Bet Butler, is with me in the studio. Nigel, Stoke Southampton next up. Stoke without a couple of key performers for this game. Cameron and Shawcross out suspended. Will that make any difference for Tony Pulis?
Well, it's made certainly difference to the odds compilers because they priced up Stoke at a very generous bet here. I mean, like I said earlier part of the show, that I always price up the games. I made Stoke 8-13 to win the game. This is a Stoke side that absolutely battered Liverpool. I mean, 3-1. It could have been more. I mean, Liverpool were awful, but Stoke were very good going behind. They've got so much belief there. They've won 5, drawn 4, lost none at home. Now they've got the best defensive record in Europe. Now, obviously, 2 key players are out there. Shawcross, massive blow for them. But I just think they're just going to be too strong for Southampton. I think they're going to be physically too strong. I think they're going to be at home, the atmosphere there, the wet, windy conditions are coming in on that ground, which is very open ground, comes in. Southampton just can't see them fancying it. And I think the prices are around. They're the best bet for me of the weekend.
You mentioned those odds. Let's take a look at the match prices for this game. It's interesting that Stoke are priced as they are. They are 20-23.
Yeah, for layman's purpose, that's around about 5 to 6.
5 to 6,
5 to 6 if you want to back them at 5 to 6. So. I mean, Southampton. When Stoke get beat at home, they're not going to lose to Southampton. They're going to lose to a Manchester United. They're going to lose to a Man City, or they're going to lose to a Tottenham or something like that. They're not going to lose to Southampton. Southampton's away record is abysmal, isn't it? I mean, they've only won 1 in 8 games, and then we scored 9 goals. I mean, what? 4-1 Southampton compared to 5 to 6 Stoke. People have been a very, very, very injustice to Stoke at these prices. It's disgraceful. It's an insult to them, and I think they'll win easy. I really, really do. The best defence in Europe, going against one of the worst attack in the Premier League. Stoke will win it. No doubt about it.
Let's take a look at the first goal scorer prices. We saw Jonathan Walters, of course, bag a couple for Stoke against Liverpool. He is the man in form for Tony Pulis' side. It's interesting, certainly, that he's not even in the top 3 of our market there. Peter Crouch, of course, was benched. Kenwyne Jones scored against Liverpool, 6-1. Cameron Jerome, 7-1. Then for Southampton, Ricky Lambert, Jay Rodriguez and Gaston Ramirez at 15-2, 12s and 12s. How do you see first goal?
Well, you've got to be all over the Stoke players. I mean, I mean, Walters isn't there, but I'm sure he'll only be just slightly behind that, maybe 7 or 8-1. Kenwyne Jones was brilliant the other night, absolutely brilliant against Liverpool. And if a Liverpool defence couldn't handle him with Agger and Skirtle, who are probably arguably not, Liverpool aren't a great footballing side, but they're a good partnership. The Southampton defence is certainly not going to be out, and Fonte, I mean, and Clyde. I think Stoke will just out-muscle them every department. I think Kenwyne Jones at 6-1, and maybe our man Walters at 8-1. But that's where they're going to win the game. I mean, they're just going to ruffle them up. And Southampton just aren't going to be able to cope with that kind of the aerial bombardment they're going to get.
I was pretty impressed, I must admit, by the way Stoke came back at Liverpool. Going a goal down at home to Liverpool so early on can occasionally knock the stuffing out of teams. Not so Stoke. They came back and they were leading at half-time and at full-time. So when we look at the half-time, full-time odds, because Stoke have got that about them, they will want to get straight into Southampton's faces. Are we looking at home here? Stoke is a 2-1 shot.
Yeah, I'll be backing Stoke at 2-1. I think draw Stoke at 18-5. Maybe a couple of people might fancy that, but I just personally think. I mean, I'm just going to back Stoke to win the game, and I genuinely will back Stoke to win the game. That'll be my best bet of the Premier League fixture list, and I'll back Stoke to win to 0. Because I just can't see Southampton scoring against them.
Have Southampton changed their style? Because at the start of the season they were scoring and conceding. More recently, and they've been getting some fair results. They haven't been scoring as many, but they've not been conceding as many.
Yeah, but that all that kind of preparation and what you do and what you don't do for your season is a great against teams like Aston Villa. It's great against Wigan. It's great against the West Hams, Norwich. When you play Stoke, it's a different kettle of fish. You're either up for it or you're physically up for it or you're not. There's no doubt about it. It's probably the most freakish place in the Premier League to go to because you know what you've got to expect. You've got to stand up and be counted. There's certain teams that could handle it. Certain teams like Sunderland may be able to match up with them. Teams like Everton will certainly be able to match up with them. But teams like Southampton will not be able to do that. So you can have all the, all the right tactical, but it's a different game. When you're getting balls bombarded, the weather's going to be chucking it down rain all weekend. It's going to be bomb balls. Just won't be able to do it. Southampton are a footballing side, and they will not be able to cope with that.
Stoke, one of the best bets on the weekend. Coupon potentially. Let's move on to the game against featuring Aston Villa against Wigan. This is interesting for a whole manner of reasons because the odds have changed over the last 24, 48 hours or so because of what we've seen with Aston Villa. Ahead of the Chelsea game, I must admit, I backed Aston Villa on the Asian handicap to beat Chelsea, so I absolutely did my money then. But I didn't expect them to get stuffed 8-0, and I didn't expect them to get beat 4-0, and it could have been 8 again against Spurs. The odds have changed for this game, and suddenly Aston Villa have drifted like the proverbial barge.
Well, yeah, it shows you. I mean, 8-0 and 4-0, and the goalie's the man of the match in both games, which is incredible. Really, and the 8-0 could have been 12-0. I mean, the most one-sided game I've ever seen. Villa, I mean, everyone thought they were going to be on a run. They go to Norwich and win 4-1. They put on a good show against, and then they go to Anfield, win, and everyone's thinking,
yeah, and after that, you price this game up at odds on, don't you?
Yeah, they price it up there, and they think they're going to turn it around. But they haven't scored in 2, conceded 12, and amazing. But Wigan are a team that are on the decline as well. I mean, they haven't won in 8 games. They've lost 5 of their last 6. The only draw was against QPR.
But they've played Arsenal and Everton most recently.
Whenever you see teams that have conceded so many goals in the last couple of weeks, there is this massive tendency that everyone goes, oh, they're going to get beat 4-0, they're going to beat 6-0, they're going to get about 8-0, they're going to be... So go against the norm, because all week Paul Lambert will be working on defensive, and a team like Wigan comes to town.
But most of the experienced defenders aren't playing. Vla's out injured, Dunn's out injured. It's all kids at the back.
Wigan have got an injury crisis as well. They've got 8 or 9 players out. Tottenham coming to you and going to Chelsea in the way they are at the moment is a bad fixture. Wigan come to you is a different kettle of fish. I think the 0-0 draw here, and around about 14-1 offers great value. I really do. If you look at American football, if a team get beat 52-0, they work on the defence, and it never happens the following week. And I think at Aston Villa, the same thing will happen here. In most sports, if a rugby game would team get very, very embarrassed, the next week is very, very tight. And if you look statistically, something like, I think the last 9 games between these two sides, every game has been under 2.5 goals, and there has been 2 0-0s in that. So in
a way, a sort of 0-0 might suit both managers to stop the rot. Let's just take a look at the first goal scorer market, because if we're going to say no goal scorer, then obviously you back no goal scorer in this market. Same for 0-0 correct score. But if you did fancy someone to score, I mean, for me, Benteke has looked awful recently. Vyman was dropped in the last game. Yeah. Bonderhall's a doubt with injury. DeSanto, Coney and Maloney played pretty well, I thought,
you've got to be on Wigan players, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean,
so. Wigan players are double the prices of Aston Villa players.
Yeah. In fact, I back all those 2 because they're starting in a 4 with 3 at the moment. I back all those 3.
Yeah, so you've got to, the value lies in the in the Wigan players. 9-1, 10-1, 14, like I say, almost double Benteke. Benteke looks like a player, the Premier League, we don't really know much about him yet, but he looks like a player when he's playing well, he's on confidence high.
He scored 30 goals. Yeah, he scored 30 goals in the calendar year for club and country. Now, I know a lot of that's for Racing Genk in the Jupiler League. Yeah. I'm not quite sure what the standard is like, but it's still not a bad haul. But he looks like his head's dropped. The amount of time that he gets caught offside is unbelievable.
I think anybody who's involved in the side that's been 8-0 or 4-0 at young age, and this is a young team, and it's a huge game for them. So I just think they'll be trying to say, listen, just don't give silly mistakes away, keep it very, very tight, and I think no goal scorer at a decent price. People laugh at me when I do things in betting, but it's so many times, if you go against the norm in betting, you have your best wins. Just because everyone expects something to happen doesn't usually mean it's going to happen, and the value lies against the trend. And I think no goal and under 2.5 goals in this game is totally against. If you look at those stats, well, just quickly, Aston Villa have only scored, what is it, something like 8 goals at home, the second lowest, the lowest in the Premier League. Compare that to Wigan, who have only scored away from home 6 goals, the second lowest behind West Ham in the Premier League. So they don't score goals. Forget those 2, put a line through those 2, and get on the 0-0.
Quick look at the half-time, full-time for you for this particular match as well. If we do like the draw, if we don't think there's going to be too many goals, then obviously we're looking at draw. That's 17-4. I mean, you can play it so many ways, can't you? Because then it may well be 0-0, 1-1. If you've got the draw on your side, then you've got that with you. If you do fancy Villa 14-5, Wigan 11-2. But we are going all out for the draw. I mean, I think it'll suit both managers. I think they can come out of the Christmas period. OK, there's another game to go, the New Year's Day game, but they'll come out of the period thinking, right, we've stopped the rot with a draw here. Draw.
I'm going to go draw, 17-4. But I mean, the best bet for me is without a doubt under 2.5 goals in the match. You know, Stoke definitely holding some of my money, and under 2.5 goals in this game, holding some of my money as well. Let's
briefly look at the Reading West Ham game for you. Put the match odds up on screen. First of all, Reading here, as you can see, 19-10 draw, 5-2. West Ham 13-8. You were surprised to see Reading at such a big price. Is that because West Ham are poor away, or you just think Reading are better at home?
Yeah, I think West Ham are a side. I don't think this. I think Reading are poor, but I don't think West Ham are that great either. I mean, I expected it to be about each of two, pick 'em, but obviously Reading have only won one game at home all season. They've drawn 5 and lost 3. Compared that to West Ham, only won 2. The trouble, West Ham don't score many goals. They've only scored 5 goals, the lowest away from home. So Allardyce is very defensive minded. Reading will go and go and go and attack and attack and attack. And there's always goals in Reading games. Obviously, they've scored 14 at home and let in 19. 33 goals whenever there's been involved. Compare that to West Ham. It's contrast styles. Attack minded at Reading against a defensive minded West Ham. And I always think you've got to go with a team that offer the goal threat. Last 3 years, 2 games in this match have been 6-0 to Reading and 3-0 to Reading. So they have got a good record against West Ham. And I don't think the prices should be that far apart, and that the value, on the betting exchanges, I'll be a lay of West Ham. I'll take the draw as well.
First goal scorer market looks like this, with the West Ham players towards the top of the market. As you can see, with Kevin Nolan 7-1, Carlton Cole 7-1, and Mark Noble, penalty taker, of course, 15-1, which seems fairly generous. Pogrebniak 6, Lafondra 13-2, Noel Hunt at 8-1. If you fancy a Reading goal scorer, if you had to pick 1 or 2 out.
Well, I wouldn't pick Pogrebniak. I've never been a fan of him at Fulham last year. He come on the scene, 6 shots, 6 goals. After that, did nothing. And he's on 60 grand a week at Reading. He's got a fantastic deal there. But I think he's a very average player. Don't like him. Lafondra, 13-2. If he starts, will be the bet. Even if he comes on the bench, and I think he's always got a goal in him. But look at the team. If Lafondra starts, under Lafondra for West Ham, you can't really oppose anyone. And look at maybe Kebe at a decent price, or Leiterwood, the captain, the centre midfield player, at double-figure price as well.
Yeah, Nolan, Colin, no Bull for West Ham. Obviously, still no Andy Carroll. I mean, I always think when I see Kevin Nolan at the top of the market for a first goal scorer, it means that the team must have trouble scoring goals. I mean, I know he's a decent goal scorer as a midfielder, but surely a striker should be at the top of the market.
Oh, definitely. And you've only got to look at their record. I mean, 5 goals from 10 games away from home. They just don't score goals in the Premier League, and that's their way. So you've got to look for Reading goal scorers, and maybe look for some big prices.
Yeah, let's take a look at the half-time, full-time finally in this market as well. If you do fancy West Ham, you'll see that is relatively short, 7-2. The draw 5-1. Reading 4-1. How do we see this one?
Well, Reading score more. There's no team that scored more late goals than Reading in the Premier League. They go and go and go and go and keep scoring goals late on. There's always late goals in Reading games. So I'm going to go for draw at half-time. Resolute West Ham defence, trying to keep it tight for 45 minutes. I don't think they'll offer anything as far as an attacking attempt at goal really for the first half, and I think Reading will nick it in the second half. So I'm going to go draw Reading at 6-1.
Draw Reading at 6-1 could be a value bet when it comes to the half-time, full-time market. 2 more games to preview. We'll get the best bets from the Butler shortly. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Punter. 2 more games to preview, the Sunday games in the Premier League. I'm pleased to say that Nigel Sealer, the Bet Butler, is still with me. Nigel, some crucial games in the Premier League on Sunday. And for me, probably the biggest of the weekend coming up at Goodison Park is Everton against Chelsea. Everton have got designs on a top 4 place. Chelsea are resurgent. This is a fascinating one. Let's take a look at the match prices first of all, because this surprised me a little bit when we check out the odds. Everton 2-1, draw 23-10, Chelsea 13-8. I actually thought that Chelsea might be a little bit shorter, and on the form that I've seen Chelsea play recently, I think they're a bet. How do you see it?
Well, I mean, it's a big match for Chelsea to actually see whether they have come as far as everyone believes they've come in the last sort of 6 or so games under Rafa Benitez. I mean, obviously he was 0-0 in the first 2 games, and everyone said, oh, and he's gone over to the World Club Championship, hasn't won that, and everyone said, oh, he's brilliantly. But let's not carry it away. They've beaten Norwich, they've beaten Sunderland, and they've beaten Aston Villa. Now, they're not exactly the top teams in the Premier League, are they? I mean, they're towards the foot of the table, in the middle of the table. This is a test. This is to see whether Chelsea are real title contenders. Everton have a fantastic record against them as well. They've unbeaten in their last 4 games here. I think the thing is with Chelsea, if it was a bookie, you price it up to entice people like yourself to get into 11-8. But this has got the draw as a huge runner here. And if you can get the draw, you get everyone's money. You get your money because no one ever bets the draw. So you'll be betting Chelsea. So Everton fans will be betting Everton. We're unbeaten at home. But people don't look at Everton are the draw specialists in this league. Nobody has drawn more games than Everton. And especially at home, they've drawn an unbelievable... they've won 4 out of their 9 games. And I think their last 10 games or something, all of them have been 1-1. Both teams have scored in more or less every single Everton game there's been in the last few years. So many 1-1 draws. And I think the draw is a huge, huge runner here. So that's why I think bookies are trying to entice you into the prat of betting Chelsea, because the draw is such a big player.
I just think that, you know, if this was earlier on in the season and Chelsea had just won, you know, 3 games such as that, Chelsea would be a lot closer to even money. But I know what you're saying, that the form you can pick holes out of. Let's take a look at the first goal scorer market here, because Chelsea are the favourites. And Chelsea plays towards the top of the market, and who else but Fernando Torres at 13-2. I thought it was interesting that he scored the first goal of the game against Aston Villa, because people talk about his goal-scoring record and the fact that he's been knocking them in for Chelsea, but so often it's been the third of a 4-1 win, the fourth of a 6-1 win, and it's come in the 80th minute. But the game against Aston Villa, I thought we saw, you know, something a little bit different from Torres. Yes, admittedly, it was only against Villa. Torres 32, Mata, everyone's darling at the moment, 8-1. Lampard, who didn't start against Norwich, may well come back in for this one, 11-1. And when it comes to those Everton players, Jelavic, Morales and Naismith, still no Marouane Fellaini. What's your thoughts?
That's the big blow. I mean, that's a big blow from obviously Fellaini. Fact that Hazard didn't play against Norwich. I think first goal scorer market, I think anybody can score a goal for the Chelsea side. Ivanovic is a big price. Yeah. In the last 15 games in Everton games, both teams have scored in the last 15 Everton games. I mean, the last 6 games, 3 have been 1-1 and 3 have been 2-1 Everton wins. So there's always goals. Both teams score. So I think, for me, I'll be paying both teams to score market. I think Chelsea got goals in them in their last 5 matches. It was 23-4, 3 against. Lots and lots of goals in the field. Torres, perhaps. But I like guys who have hit form like Torres at a price like 7 to score any time rather than specifically score the first goal. But I think both teams will come down to a set piece. I think Ivanovic, Cahill at a big price. Yeah, those kind of players, looking for those to get the opener at big prices rather than... The thing is about Everton as well is that they're doing exceptionally well all season. They're unbeaten at home. They're getting goals. But Jelavic has done nothing. Absolutely nothing. So they're relying on goals from everywhere else. Leighton Baines put balls in. So look for big prices here. And I think the 2 centre-halves here, both sides, could come up with a goal.
Half-time, full-time, we can take a look at next. This is fairly tight given the nature of the match odds, as you would expect. The favourite is Chelsea at 3-1, Everton at 9-2, draw at 9-2, as you can see. I mean, I'm big in the Chelsea camp for this one. I think Chelsea 3-1 is pretty big. They can defend, as we've seen this. And Rafa Benitez is a defensive coach, by and large. I think they're a better team now than they were under Di Matteo. How do you see the half-time, full-time?
Well, I mean, Rafa's quite a negative coach as well in games like this as well in history. I mean, he goes quite defensive-minded. I like the draw in the match. So if I'll be looking for the draw as the end result, and I think Everton draw at 16-1, maybe Chelsea pin them back, or Chelsea draw where Everton pin them back in the second half of 16-1. So that's where I'll be heading. Everton draw and Chelsea draw at 16s. But I think the draw in the game, and that's as a layer. I mean, I'd be happy if I was a bookie. I'd be happy for you, Dan, to have your few quid on Chelsea to win the game with me, because I think the draw is such. And if you look at stats, the draw should be a lot shorter. But it's a great result for the bookies to have, because it's going to be a massive winner for them, especially on live TV.
Chelsea for me, draw for the Butler. Draw could be a big price. It's going to be a fascinating game. Everton laying down their top 4 credentials. Chelsea might be back in the title race if they aren't already. Queen's Park Rangers Liverpool is the other game live on the box on Sunday. This is the 4 o'clock kickoff. Harry Redknapp wasn't happy with decisions that went against his side in that defeat to West Brom. Liverpool themselves were pretty shocking, weren't they, against Stoke last time out there, both on a recovery mission. Who might recover? Match odds first of all, and the prices here, Nigel, are interesting, aren't they? Because QPR 5-2, draw 16-5. I was talking about, you know, teams away from home being short. I mean, I can't possibly back Liverpool at even money away.
Well, you know they're going to get backed, Dan, because they get backed every game. They got backed against Stoke, they got backed against Aston Villa, they got backed against Fulham. They get backed every single week in, week out, without fail, and they will get backed again. And the reason why is because they have more shots and they have more corners than anybody. I mean, I was telling you earlier, Liverpool in the 2 games last season against QPR had a staggering 34 corners, which is amazing. I mean, the average for a game is 11, so each side should only have 6. They had 34 corners. They have more corners. They only hit the bar more than anyone. They have more shots than anyone, but they're not a good footballing side. Even money. you've got to. The QPR, I'm a QPR fan, as many people know on this show, but they raise their game against the bigger sides. It's the likes when they're at home to Reading, they don't win. When they're playing Southampton, they don't win. When they play West Brom, they don't win. But against the big boys, they really raise their game. This game last season was the start of the game that saved QPR. And QPR have to get something. If they don't get 3 points, I think they're gone anyway. I think they're down, and I'm a QPR fan. I think they're down. Even if they win this game, it gives them some hope. If they lose this game or don't get anything else, they are absolutely gone.
Let's take a look at the first goal scorer market on this one. Obviously, Liverpool plays towards the top end of the market. As you can see, with Suarez 4, Gerrard 8, Sterling only was a sub in the last game, 10-1. Cisse Tarapto and Mackie 8 10s and 10s. First goal scorer bet.
Cisse's been looking sharp the last few weeks. I mean, he scored a goal. He had another couple of chances at the weekend. He's been looking bang on sharp, 8-1. If he plays, he's a decent bet. I've said for some weeks, I think Sean White-Phillips is coming back some form. He's a typical player that Harry Redknapp puts his arm around him, tells him you'll be back in England squad under me, son, and he makes him play for the next 6 weeks. And he'd been abysmal, absolutely abysmal for 2 seasons under Mark Hughes. The last 4 games, he's cut into play really well. And I think if he cuts in and if he does play, he could be a decent price at 16-1. Suarez at 4-1, not for me. And the way I'm playing a game, and it's not, I back QPR at the weekend, done my money, but I'd be a layer of Liverpool at even money. But I would say to anyone looking to play that, leave it right to the kickoff, because they could go off this game 4-5.
Let's take a look at the half-time, full-time. This one, for me, is one where you can go Liverpool QPR, or the other way round, if you like. The massive prices available, as you can see. Up on screen with Liverpool QPR 40-1. That would not surprise me.
Well, that's what it was last year.
And QPR Liverpool 28. You could play them both. I can see goals in the game, and I can see just one of those mad old matches.
The last 8 games has been over 2.5 goals in every game the two of these play. Liverpool recently have been goals in every game they play. Last season it was 2-0 to Liverpool going into the last 5 minutes, and QPR won 3-2. Liverpool QPR were matched on Betfair at 700-1 to win the game. They won the game. So it could be that. And QPR's performances in the second half has been exceptional. It's the first half, they go behind and they're 2-0 down, they start playing at 2-0 down. And you can't keep doing that. But against this Liverpool side, Liverpool won't fancy going to QPR. When the fans are on the pitch, close to the pitch, the atmosphere there will be rocking on a live game. And I think QPR will get something from the match. But because Liverpool are a very, very poor side, especially on the travels.
It's interesting that you say that you still believe that QPR are going to go down. If they beat Liverpool, there might be odds.
I still think they'll go down. I still think they'll go down. But I think the appointment of Harry Redknapp was 3 games too late. I think he should have come in earlier. And I think the fact that they've played a lot of the bottom teams at home and have got nothing, their fixture list is appalling. And even if they get 3 points, everyone's saying we've got a chance here. You can't not win against Reading, Swansea, Norwich, Southampton, and West Brom at your home games, not get any points and turn around and say you're going to stay up.
That's it for QPR Liverpool. Finally, I want your best bet over the course of these final games of 2012 in the Premier League. What's the best bet for you?
Well, I've got 2 actually. My nap will be Stoke at 5-6. I think that's a gift from the gods against Southampton. I really do. I think they'll just rough them up and win 1-2-0, do a job on a professional job. And I'm going to go under 2.5 goals as my next best in the Aston Villa Wigan game.
That's the nap and next best from the Bet Butler when it comes to the final games in the Premier League in 2012. There are some crucial fixtures over the course of the weekend. Hopefully, you will make it pay for what it's worth. I think Chelsea and Everton are the best bet of the weekend at 13-8. Hopefully, you will have a successful punting day on Saturday and Sunday. From myself, Dan Roebuck, and from Nigel Seeley, the Bet Butler, it's goodbye, and we'll see you next time.